Imagine you are standing in the middle of Tokyo, thousands of miles from Puerto Rico, and every single person around you is screaming the words to a song in Spanish like their lives depend on it. Not humming along, not doing that thing where you fake knowing the lyrics and just mouth random sounds hoping nobody notices. No, these people know every single syllable, every breath, every pause, every emotion packed into those lines. And the man standing on that stage, the man from Vega Baja, the kid who grew up watching his neighborhood get overlooked by the rest of the world, is standing there with his eyes wide open, looking out at that crowd. And you can see it on his face. You can see the exact moment a human being realizes the universe has been listening this whole time. That is the moment that started this whole conversation. That is the moment that broke the internet and broke a lot of people's arguments at the same time. That is the Bad Bunny Japan moment. And if you think you already know this story, sit down, because you do not know half of it yet. Before we get into it, welcome to Celebrity Talk Show Room. If you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We cover the stories that go deeper than the headlines. Now, let's get into it. Let us go back to the beginning real quick, because context matters when you're talking about someone this big. Bad Bunny is not some overnight success story that got cooked up in a label boardroom somewhere on the 40th floor of a Manhattan skyscraper. This man used to bag groceries at a supermarket in Puerto Rico while uploading music to SoundCloud at night, hoping somebody, somewhere would hear what he was building. He did not have the machine behind him from day one. He did not have the connections or the cosigns or the carefully planned rollout strategy. He had his voice, his vision, and an absolute refusal to change either one of them for anybody. And slowly, then all at once, the whole world started paying attention. Not because he chased them, because what he was making was so authentic, so undeniably real, that people could feel it even when they didn't fully understand the words yet. That is the foundation this entire empire was built on. Not strategy, soul. Now fast forward to the Spotify Billions Club event in Japan and understand what that invitation actually means. Spotify does not pull together an event like that for artists who are trending for the season. This is a company sitting on top of more streaming data than any organization in the history of recorded music. They see every number, every skip, every replay, every playlist ad, every 3 a.m. listen from someone crying in their car. And when they looked at Bad Bunny's numbers, they did not see a regional hit or a genre moment. They saw something that forced them to stop and say this man deserves his own dedicated event on the other side of the planet because his reach is planetary. Not a shared spotlight, not a seat at a table, his own table in Japan, because that is what his catalog demands. Think about how rare that is. Now think about why Japan specifically. Japan is not a place that rolls out the welcome mat for just anyone. The culture there runs deep. The music scene is one of the most distinct and self-sufficient in the world, and Japanese audiences are known for being genuine, passionate, and seriously devoted once they lock in on something they love. Getting that crowd to care is not something you manufacture with a good marketing campaign or a well-placed playlist. You cannot buy that loyalty. You earn it by making music that touches something universal inside a person, something that does not need translation because it bypasses language entirely and goes straight to the feeling. That is what Bad Bunny's music does. It's always done that, but seeing the proof of it in Japan, in a room full of people who grew up in a completely different world from his, made something that people already knew feel suddenly impossible to argue against. And then came the moment. The crowd went quiet for a second, the way crowds do right before something they know is coming. That collective inhale before the exhale hits. That Todas Formas Te Amaré started, and the room erupted. Not in the way crowds erupt for a banger with a massive drop. This was something different, something more vulnerable and more powerful at the same time. These people started singing In Spanish, every word, every line, every emotionally loaded syllable of one of the most intimate songs in his entire catalog. People who grew up speaking Japanese, people who had to actively go out of their way to learn those words because they wanted to be ready for this moment, standing there and giving that song everything they had. If you watched the footage and didn't feel something in your chest, go check your pulse because something might be wrong. Now, here's where the story gets uncomfortable for certain people, because after all of this, after years of record-breaking streaming numbers, after sold-out stadium tours across 4 continents, after collaborations with some of the most respected names in music across every genre, after Un Verano Sin Ti sitting at the top of charts for months and forcing every music critic who had been sleeping on reggaeton to suddenly write a very humble think piece about how they got it wrong, there are still people out here trying to have a debate about whether Bad Bunny is actually the biggest artist in the world right now. And that's not a music argument anymore. That's something else entirely. That's discomfort wearing the costume of skepticism. The real truth is that Bad Bunny broke a rule that a lot of powerful people in this industry had been enforcing for decades without anyone really calling it out. The rule that said global domination required English. The rule that said music from the Caribbean was too specific, too regional, too rooted in its own culture to ever truly take over the mainstream. He was supposed to be a phase. He was supposed to peak and pull back and make room for the next thing. Instead, he went deeper. Instead, he got more specific, more Puerto Rican, more himself, and the whole world chased him into that space rather than waiting for him to come out and meet them in the middle. That's not just impressive. That's a complete rewriting of how this game is supposed to work. Un Verano Sin Ti is the perfect case study if you want to understand what makes him different. That album had no business doing what it did by the logic of the old industry playbook. It was long. It was genre-bending in ways that confused radio programmers. It leaned hard into Afro-Caribbean sounds and structures that historically mainstream gatekeepers treated like they had a ceiling on their commercial potential. And it became one of the most streamed albums in the history of the platform. It got Grammy nominations. It moved the entire conversation, not because someone decided to market it as crossover, because it was honest. And people all over the world recognized honesty when it hit them in the face. That is the through line in this whole story. Honesty. He raps in Puerto Rican Spanish with the specific slang and cadence and cultural references of where he's from. And instead of the world shrugging and moving on, the world leaned in and learned the language. That's not something you manufacture. That is what happens when an artist operates from a place of complete confidence in their own identity for long enough and at a high enough level that the audience has no choice but to come to them. Most artists never get there. Most artists get scared somewhere along the way and start making adjustments, start softening the edges, start trying to sound like what they think the market wants. Bad Bunny never did that. Not once. And Japan is what that decision looks like when it compounds over years and pays off in the most undeniable way imaginable. So when that crowd in Tokyo sang the Todas Formas Te Amaré back to him, word for word, in a room at a Spotify Billions Club event that he was invited to because his streaming numbers are the kind that make data analysts look twice, what you were watching was not just a concert moment. You were watching the proof. The physical, visible, human, emotional proof that real art has no borders. That a kid from a small island that bagged groceries and uploaded songs to SoundCloud at night while the rest of the world was sleeping built something so powerful and so true that it now lives in the hearts of people on the other side of the earth. And the most chilling part of all of it is that this man has barely even hit his ceiling yet. The world domination is not over. If anything, what happened in Japan is just the latest reminder that it's only getting started.